Hello and welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on Friday, October 23rd. I'm your host for today's program, Kimberly Acosta. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryNews.com or you can check out IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news from the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. An appeals court during October rejected the Schaghticoke tribal nation's latest attempt at federal recognition, leaving a bid to the U.S. Supreme Court as the Connecticut group's last recourse. A three-judge panel of the U.S. Second Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a ruling last year by the U.S. District Court Judge Peter Dorsey, who let stand a government decision to deny recognition to the tribe. Monday's rulings say that the Schaghticokes failed to prove their allegations that Connecticut politicians used improper influence to derail the tribe's efforts. The Schaghticokes, who have a reservation in Kent, won recognition in January of 2004 from the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs, but an agency appeal panel overturned the ruling in 2005. The Interior Department later upheld the reversal, saying the tribe had substantial gaps in evidence it presented about its social continuity and political governance. Several Connecticut politicians and Kent officials have strongly opposed recognition, fearing the tribe would try to open a casino in the rural northwestern corner of the state. The Schaghticokes said that in their lawsuit that the recognition process was tainted by undue political influence from lobbyists, advocacy groups, and politicians, including Connecticut congressional delegation members, Attorney General Richard Blumenthal, and then Governor John Rowland. The appeals court decision Monday says that although the politicians showed keen interest in the tribe's quest for recognition, the Interior Department officials who handled the case were not affected by the political clamor. Meanwhile, Blumenthal praised the decision, saying it was finally putting those meritless petitions out of its misery. An appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, the only recourse left, would be futile and foolish, and we will fight it vigorously, he said. Most members of a religious sect looking to establish a permanent base on tribal reservations in eastern Idaho now have until the end of the month to vacate the property. Leaders of the Shoshoni Banach Tribes say they don't expect any problems with the Church of the Firstborn or the General Assembly of Heaven to meet the October 29th deadline. But tribal attorney Mark Echohawk tells the Idaho State Journal the tribe is prepared to take legal action if necessary to enforce the deadline. Members of the sect set up residence on the reservation earlier this year after moving from Utah and hoping to build permanent structures. Last month, the tribe's Land Use Policy Commission rejected a permit for the sect to build a three-story, 18,000 square foot building on nearly 4 acres. Recently released 2007 agricultural data from the United States Department of Agriculture for Native American reservations revealed that non-native agricultural producers dominate on most Native American reservations in the United States. This is according to a study conducted by Village Earth. According to Village Earth's study in the USDA data, in total numbers, Native Americans represent only 1.6% of the farmers and ranchers operating on reservation lands. Today, for the most part, Native American reservations in the United States, more than 2/3 of the farms and ranchers are controlled by non-natives. As might be expected, this disparity in land use has had a dramatic impact on the ability of Native Americans to fully benefit from their natural resources. Statistics on income reveal that the total value of the agricultural commodities produced on Native American reservations in 2007 total over $2.1 billion, yet only 16% of that income went to Native American farmers and ranchers. The unequal land use patterns seen on reservations today is a direct outcome of discriminatory lending practices, land fractionation, and specifically federal policies over the last century that have excluded Native landowners from the ability to utilize their lands while at the same time opening it up to non-Native farmers and ranchers. Discriminatory lending practices, as argued in a court case such as the pending Keeps Eagle versus Vilsack, claim that Native Americans have been denied roughly $3 billion in credit. According to the Village Earth, the disparity in land use on Native American reservations will only worsen with each new generation until Native Americans are given a fair chance at accessing the credit and other forms of assistance available to non-natives. The RCMP officials in northeastern New Brunswick say that pieces of the puzzle are beginning to fall into place regarding their investigation into the disappearance of 16-year-old Hillary Bunnell. District 8 spokesman said that although investigators haven't officially determined whether they're dealing with an abduction or a teen runaway, the picture becomes clearer with each passing day. The spokesman wouldn't get into detail about the nearly 500 leads police have been working since the teenager went missing after attending an all-night house party in the Burnt Church First Nation the morning of September 5th, but stressed that there is a lot going on behind the scenes. He said the RCMP investigation is the largest in terms of resources and manpower he's seen in the region since 2003, when an angry Shipabgan mob burned boats, buildings, and traps during a dispute with the federal government over snow crab quotas, causing millions of dollars in damage. A reward of more than $15,000 still stands for information leading to the teen's safe return to her family. Hillary Bonnell is 5'5" and weighs 134 pounds. She is Aboriginal and has long black hair and dark brown eyes, piercings on her right eyebrow and bottom lip, and was last seen wearing a black sweater, purple t-shirt, flip-flops, and denim shorts. Anyone with information is asked to call the RCMP at 1-888-506-7267 or the New Brunswick's Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. The Seneca Nation is adding on to its temporary casino in Buffalo, but construction of a permanent facility remains an indefinite hold because of the economy. The $8 million 5,300 square foot expansion of the temporary building began on Monday. It will make room for up to 250 more slot machines, bringing the total up to around 450. Work on the $333 million permanent casino and hotel was suspended last summer, leaving a skeleton of steel frame at the site. Seneca Gaming Corp. Chairman Jeffrey Gill says the board has not decided when work might begin again. Meanwhile, a legal challenge remains pending in federal court. Opponents want the Buffalo Casino shut down, claiming the purchased land it's on shouldn't qualify as sovereign territory. Panelists Jeff Harjo, Ronnie Washanis, and Mark Trahan, who have worked in Native American media, discussed the obstacles of free press on October 19th, an issue which a resolution is complicated and hard to obtain. Storytellers and Warriors, Issues in Native American Media, a town hall meeting hosted by the University of Idaho School of Journalism and Mass Media, addressed funding with Native American media, as well as the conflicts with mainstream media. Jeff Harjo, Executive Director of the Native American Journalists Association, said it would be ideal if a newspaper staff could do their own paper without the oversight of a chief or tribal council. Because all tribes are treated as sovereign nations, the problem of free press will have to be resolved within each tribe, and the panelists agreed that that's the way it should be. Mark Trahan said that the problem is complicated and difficult to solve, but some tribes have passed resolutions that separate newspapers from the tribal council oversight. Washanis said that one of the main problems the Native American media faces is still funding, frequently allocated by tribal leaders. Conflicts with mainstream media and coverage of Native American news was also addressed, and the use of certain mascots also brings about an issue for Native American media. While newspaper media has taken strides with Native Americans, Trahan said broadcast media hasn't at all, and he thinks it's institutional pressure from ratings rather than racism. The goals of Native American media include communicating and telling stories, as well as embracing new technology, Trahan said, and he sees a big move towards social media reporting and says it would help constraints the Native American media faces. And lastly, I would just like to mention that in yesterday's read, the wrong picture was run in the story regarding the murder of Anna Mae Aquash. The photo that ran was of Arlo Looking Cloud. The photo that ran was of Arlo Looking Cloud, who has already been convicted in the Aquash case. The picture that should have run was of John Graham, who is on trial for both federal and state court on charges with killing or aiding the murder of Anna Mae Aquash. Prosecutors say Aquash was killed because she was a suspected government informant against the American Indian movement. And that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining us and have a grand day.